I mean, you know what? Why don't you give your mom and I a moment alone?
Of course.
Just so you know, the crying bits are getting old.
Just so you know, Kevin likes his girls thin.
Well, I could always get liposuction. I've been meaning to ask. Is it painful?
That maid of honor bitch. Priceless.
And you know what they say? Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
Oh.
Now you listen to me. This is my game.
The overbearing mother. You've been raising your kids for the last 18 years. Now they're out of the house and you're still trying to tell them what to do, just like we saw in that movie, Monster Law. We're talking about parenting your kids even after they're adults. And joining us is relationship expert Dr. Becky Whetstone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back again. That's a great movie.
Isn't that a great movie?
And it's not actually too far off from probably what a lot of people deal with sometimes.
No, and Christine, I have to tell you that adult children throughout San Antonio and really the United States have contacted me personally and asked me to speak directly to their parents out there in TV land and say, leave them alone.
Leave them alone. Parents, you know, something probably interesting is that the kids are watching it. The parents are probably like, that's not me. That's not me.
Right.
But sometimes it can be hard for parents to let go. They've been raising kids for 18 years.
Well, it's because, like, in the first years of your child's life, you're so responsible for their security and safety. So you're in this mode of, I've got to protect them, I've got to control them, blah, blah, blah. But then, I hate to say it, one day, it's almost like one day, they grow up. I mean, they're legally an adult at age 18.
You got to let them go.
You got to let them go. Now, if they're living at home and they're still financially independent, or dependent on you and stuff like that, well, you can still probably treat them a little bit like a child. But once they're past 18 and they're on their own financially, you've got to make a shift in your parenting style.
You've got to let them go. And I wanted just to throw out this anecdote, but this is something that it's pretty close to you, actually.
Oh, yes.
You're kind of the expert.
Yes, well, I can.
More ways than one.
I can attest to how painful and difficult it is. I have a 19-year-old son, and he's getting ready to go off to college this summer. And his dad and I had we've talked about how we were going to have to make this shift, and so we're giving him a little more rope than he had before. So we're easing him into it. But I figure by September, when he's in school,
well, your son's probably watching right now. He's like, Mom, but take some notes from your own tips.
Oh, everything I say embarrasses me.
You've got some tips for parents at home
absolutely.
that we're going to go through. The first one is listen.
Yes, absolutely. Listen. No, shut up is the first one.
Okay. Shut
up.
Okay.
I was going to say, wait, listen. No, it's shut up. Yeah, no, what I'm telling parents is parents love to sit around, like you say you're at home, you're talking about your life, and the mother's sitting there putting on her parental ears.
Right.
And she is listening to your problems, but she feels like she has to offer you advice, opinions, judgment, tell you what to do. And what the parent doesn't realize is what children need once they're an adult is a soft place to land. Life is difficult. So we need to be empathetic listeners. There's where the listening comes in. But shut your mouth when it comes to opinions. You shouldn't do that. You ought to do that, and that kind of stuff.
Right. I'll tell you from firsthand experience, when they don't zip their lips, the last person you're going to go to is your parents, because you don't want to hear what they have to say.
No, exactly.
Sometimes.
And that's a very important message for parents today is if you do want to continue treating your child like a 6-year-old and parenting the child like a 6-year-old, then I promise you that what's going to happen is your child's going to want to withdraw, and you're the parent, so they're going to want to see you out of obligation,
right? Because
they have to, but they're not going to really look forward to it. And I've talked to many adult children who tell me they dread going to visit their parents. I've heard some say, it gets to be Mother's Day, it's 10 p.m., and I think, well, I better go over to her house now.
So it's an obligation now.
Yeah.
It's an obligation now. You talked about empathize. What are some tips? How can parents empathize?
Okay, and I do this with my children. They would have to give me an A in this. My children start telling me about their life, and I say, that must have been very difficult for you. So I'm trying to let them know that I know life is hard.
Right.
I'm not saying, well, you should do this, you should do that. I say, well, you know what? That must be very difficult for you, and I wish there was something I could do.
Now, is it difficult for parents to just hold back and do that?
It requires self-control.
Yeah. All right, we've got a lot more tips with Dr. Becky. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Joining us this morning is Dr. Becky Whetstone, relationship expert. We're talking about when parents just don't understand, as the song just said. When it's time to let the kids go.
Yeah.
Talk only when asked.
That's right. I mean, it's just our natural instinct as a parent to just tell our kids everything we think and all that stuff. And I'm saying, okay, we said in the first segment, shut up and listen. But of course you can talk.
Sure.
But wait till your child asks you, what do you think about this? Instead of offering up all this information that they didn't solicit. A lot of people just need to vent. That's an anxiety releaser.
Yeah.
When you vent and has a nice listener there who's not judging you.
So, yeah. The one thing that I can't stand is when I'm trying to vent to somebody and they're constantly interrupting me, telling me what it is, what I need to do, and you need to do this, and you have to do this, and I think this.
That's right. We're not looking for solutions. Yeah. We just need to vent. Literally, people are like teapots. They get filled with steam, and that steam's got to come out the spout.
Yeah.
You know, so we got to get and you do that by talking.
Exactly. Another thing is you should probably consider, when you are asked to speak, you should probably not be too judgmental. Probably think before you speak.
Absolutely. I highly recommend that you keep your opinions to yourself unless asked. I mean, and let me tell you, this is like being on a diet. I mean, the cake is there, you want it, you know. You've got to just use self-control. My son tells me stuff sometimes that literally makes my hair curl. I was straight-haired before I started dealing with my son. I'm serious.
Right.
I had that straight hair, and then you just sit there, but what I've learned is if I will just sit and listen to him without judging or saying, you should do this, he starts telling me more. He starts looking to me as a person that he wants to share things with. Now, sometimes they share things with you that's painful to hear.
I was going to say that's another thing is you want your kids to open up to you, but if you're asking for that, then also expect that you might hear things that you probably didn't need to know or want to know.
Right, and sometimes, I mean, it is okay if the child starts talking about sexual things. I mean, parents just freak out. It's okay as a parent to say, look,
don't talk to me about that.
I love you to death, but you need to call Dr. Becky and talk about that. I'm not the person to hear that.
Okay. Also, advice. When offering advice, what should you consider?
When you're offering advice, like for your...
Unsolicited advice.
Unsolicited advice? Okay, let me see here.
When to offer.
Okay, here's the thing. We hear our kids talking, and we're withdrawing judgment, we're withdrawing remarks and things like that. Now, sometimes you're going to find out that they're about to make a disastrous mistake, okay? If you see that they're about to make a disastrous mistake, it's okay to put your parenting hat back on. But I'm begging parents to just sort of soften the blow by going to your child and saying, look, honey, can I just put on my parenting hat here for just a minute? Please allow me to say that I think you're about to make a terrible mistake. Now, I'm going to tell you this one time, that I'm very concerned about you, and then I'm not going to mention it anymore, and then you have to do that. Because one thing that drives your children away from you is when you bring it up over and over and over and over again. So say something once and leave it alone.
Because sometimes I think parents, and I'm not a parent, but I have a mother who wants to protect your children. You want to protect your children, but you have to let them go a little bit, realize that life is going to be difficult, and learn those lessons.
Unfortunately, the best way for our children to learn is by experience. It's hard for the parent to do that because we don't want them to go through the difficulties that we did. But the bottom line is your kids just aren't going to listen to you. Right. You know, so you might as well just give it up. Don't even try.
Finally, I've got to ask you about this. Mind your own business is tip number 8, and that's such kind of a big one. We were talking about, this movie we were just watching, Monster Law. Another good example of that was Everybody Loves Raymond. Another show that I'm sure people have watched before.
Well, there's certain parents out there that love to meddle and get involved and manipulate and control. They even use guilt to control their children. Yes, there are some out there. And I've had clients who tell me, well, my mother's pressuring me to get married. My mother's pressuring me to have children and all this stuff. And I'm telling parents, if you want to drive your children away, then meddle in their business. Because they cannot stand it. They do not like it. They will not want to be around you. And they may even move out of town.
Hopefully some kids out there or some young adults just TiVoed this show and they can send it to their mothers or their fathers for that matter. We want to give everybody the information for Dr. Becky Whetstone, marriage and family therapist. For more information, shoot her an email at becky@drbecky.com or give her a call at 494-3834 or check out our website, drbecky.com. Dr. Becky, thank you so much for some valuable advice.
Thank you.
There are young adults out there thanking you right now as we speak.
No problem.
Thanks again, Dr. Becky. Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
My mom started bugging with the clothes she chose. I didn't say nothing at first. I just turned to my nose. She said, "What's wrong? This shirt costs $20."